KHTS or its ownership.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Good morning and welcome to the Senior Hour, which is sponsored by Comfort Keepers in Home Care and Advanced Audiology. I'm Barbara Cochran on your hometown station, AM 1220, 98.1 FM, KHTS. And Dr. Jean Dorio, my normal host, is in Sacramento fighting for the seniors.
That's awesome.
Yes. He's representing our city and our county on behalf of the seniors.
That's
Isn't
great.
That nice? Yes, he got appointed by the county, and which I did many, many, many years ago when it first started. So that's where he is, up there today, fighting for us. Isn't that nice?
That's nice.
Yes. Okay, Sir Thomas Polucki.
Yes.
Welcome again.
Thank you.
And what are we doing today?
Well, I'm sitting in for Jean.
Okay, Dr. Jean, Dr. Polucki.
There you go.
And I'm Dr. Cochran. How's that?
Honorary. So first and foremost, our love and prayers for our station owners, Jerry and Carl, who are in isolation in Oklahoma?
Nebraska.
Nebraska. I always get those two mixed up. In Nebraska, they'll be in quarantine for a bit more. Carl does have the coronavirus, which is essentially a cold. We're going to be talking about that in a little bit. Another end of the world apocalyptic scare to fund a vaccine campaign that is essentially for the common cold. And all the numbers will support what I'm saying, but we'll see. So Carl's got a cold, and so he's in quarantine for however long. Nobody's going to reimburse anybody for all the time that people are stuck in quarantine because they have a cold, which is absolutely insane.
Ridiculous.
But he ran a slight fever, tested positive for the virus, has no other symptoms, a mild cough. Now, he went into this with some other health conditions, and so I was initially a little concerned that he wasn't going to be able to be treated for the medical conditions that he had prior to being exposed to the coronavirus. But, Jerry's kind of tough, so she got his equipment to him because he got something called Guillain-Barré from a vaccine for his last travel. So the vaccine that gave him this peripheral neuropathy, we've been treating him for, and quite effectively. But on this trip, that equipment was taken away from him,
and he's backtracked
in
now.
the isolation. So, but Jerry fought for it, got it back for him. So now he's on the mend again with that. And
Good.
by the way, the coronavirus that he's absolutely has isn't even a cold. He absolutely has what everybody is scared to death, what's on the news constantly, 24/7 on pretty much every channel, because they're trying to open up funding to fight this end of the world disease.
How many end-of-the-world diseases have we
Every
had?
year. It
Something
depends on who
happens.
needs to, get
some
money, and it's absolutely obscene, these scams that are perpetrated and played out on the news media. They're all part of it. Everybody's in on this. It's absolutely obscene that this is anything more than, okay, some people have a cold and it's going to spread, and there's no vaccine. How long has there been the common cold? Because that's exactly
forever.
That's what the coronavirus is. It's in the same family as the cold. The only people who are at high risk for this at all are people who are really sick and immune compromised in the first place. And of course, that's going to be a challenge with anything that comes down the line. But spending billions of dollars to get a vaccine fast line green lit through and have the taxpayers flip the bill for this so that a few people are going to make an obscene amount of money on this, and everybody's going to be rushing for a vaccine, which will cause more complications than protection for anybody.
Well, what about this? What about
just horribly wrong?
What about a flu vaccine? Don't we have a, quote, flu vaccine
We
already?
have a flu vaccine, and, again, the company line on this is that everybody should get the flu vaccine every year. And the research over the past several years is that it doesn't do any good. It doesn't change the outcome. In fact, several years in a row, if you get the flu vaccine, it's been shown that you're more likely to have complications from it than if you were to do nothing at all. However, you'll never hear that in the media. You'll never see that. You'll never hear that from your general practitioner because they're not allowed to say that. Even if they look at all the data, even if they see all the information, they can actually lose their license, lose their hospital privileges.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Dr. Oz, whether you
yes.
like him or don't like him, that's
that
fine.
man.
Some people have their opinions and they're fine. He initially came out against a yearly flu vaccine.
Yes, he did.
And he
I
had to
remember
retract that publicly on air and get a shot right on air just to save his license, his TV show, and his hospital privileges. This is the kind of power that you're dealing with out there.
That's
You
amazing.
can't have an opinion other than, oh, yes, everybody should get vaccinated all the time. Now, me personally, I don't make it an issue at all. If you want to get vaccinated, get vaccinated. There is some scientific credibility to it. However, you asked a specific question. Does the flu vaccine work? And the research says not so much.
No.
And to spend whatever millions or billions of dollars fighting a coronavirus, which is Carl has it, and he had a mild fever. He spiked a mild fever a couple of times, and he's got a cough. But there's no more.
Jerry also has a cough.
Jerry also, she's tested negative for it.
I know, but
she
has
has
a
to
cough.
now. The CDC is you have to test negative 3 times before you can be removed from quarantine.
So how much longer is Carl going to be
Indefinitely. Indefinitely.
This is ridiculous.
Yeah. Meanwhile, they've got businesses to run.
Yes,
They've
they
already
have.
been away for a month now, and it's indefinite that they'll be in how long they'll be in quarantine. The virus is already out there. It's already spreading. It's already outside of China. And it doesn't really matter because the only people who are in danger from it are people who would be in danger from anything anyway.
That's right. That's right. But what good is this supposed vaccine going to do?
Absolutely nothing.
No, it's not going to stop anything.
No, they can't cure the common cold.
No.
They can't stop the flu every single year
No, that's
that
right.
they go after it with these vaccines that are supposed to be so effective. And the research doesn't support it. The statistics do not support it. But billions of taxpayer dollars go into this process. And that's what this is unfortunately all about.
Well, it's interesting because last Thursday I had a flu bug.
Mm.
I had upset stomach, diarrhea. I ran a mild temperature, but it was for 24 hours.
Right,
I felt fine Friday morning.
right.
And I'm thinking, where did I get it? And what did I get?
Yeah.
Because the first thing that comes to your mind when something like that happens is that coronavirus, you know?
Yeah.
Have I got that?
Yeah. The flu is much more dangerous than the coronavirus. And that's not my opinion. That is statistically. Thousands of people this year have already died from the flu. And I don't know the exact number of how many people died from corona, but it's nowhere near that.
Well, I don't know whether I had a flu bug or if I ate something that disagreed with me or what, but it hit me hard for 24 hours.
Right.
And then I felt fine.
Yep.
So I'm thinking, what was that? You know? But I guess you can pick up little bugs like that at any time, anywhere.
Of course. And everybody will, whether you're
Yes.
vaccinated or not.
That's right.
That's what the statistics show. So the game has to be played. People have to get paid. And that's all this is really about. We have to scare the heck out of the public saying that this is, the worst thing since the dark ages. The plague is coming and everybody needs a vaccine for it. And that's how this whole thing is going to play
Well,
out.
the friends of Jerry and Carl, she's still in Japan, isn't she? Or China?
Jerry, her friend, Jerry's friend is Jerry.
Yes.
And yes, she is. And her husband
He's
also had, no, he has tested positive
Oh,
for
he
it.
has?
So yeah.
Is he back there? I thought he was here.
I don't
No,
know
he's
exactly.
here.
But he tested positive for it, so
Oh, gee. So
Yeah.
where is he now?
I don't know.
Because I thought he was home. There was a big article about him in the newspaper. Well, maybe he's back in Nebraska,
I have no idea. I don't know.
or who knows, or up in Sacramento or someplace. They've got several places they keep talking about where people have been evacuated to. So
Yeah. Hindsight will show us that this is not much more than a cold because that is
Oh,
what
yeah,
coronavirus is. We've been dealing with this forever. This is
where
nothing.
did this idiotic title come from, though?
What, corona?
Yeah, the coronavirus.
It's always been around.
Yeah, but they call it.
Oh, novel. That
No.
means it's a new one.
Yes, that's. And I thought, where did that word come from?
Novel just means new.
Okay, I didn't realize.
So
that. Well, you
it's
just learn
the
something
new and
every day.
improved cold is essentially.
But they called it the Corona something D19 or
I don't
I
know.
don't know. I've seen several names for it, but
They got to make it as scary as possible. So I'm sure there's a whole marketing team on this figuring out what scares the public the most so that they can get the most amount of funds allocated to
quote fight
pay
this.
off all the people that want to make some money on this thing. It's obscene.
Well, what kind of medication do you give a cold?
Well, I'll tell you what they're doing in Japan. They're doing warm water and ginger because
I
the
heard
people who are quarantined in Japan aren't receiving any medication at all because they have a slightly different system over there. But here, where we take more drugs than pretty much everybody else on the planet combined,
True.
they are opening up the coffers and seeing how much funding. But first, there has to be a fear campaign 24/7 on every news media there is in order to make sure that we can maximize that allocation of funds.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
I-
So in
well-
Japan, where this
So it's
quarantine
warm
started.
water and ginger.
Yeah, well, that's what they're doing.
Warm water and ginger. Do you mix the powdered ginger into water? Is that
I
what
don't
it
know.
is?
I don't know. I don't
Interesting. Interesting. Warm water and ginger.
know. Yeah.
Okay. So what are they giving to Americans who have it over here?
Nothing so far.
Nothing so far. They're
Mhm.
not. They're not manufacturing a new drug
No.
that will fight a cold.
Well, there are. They're claiming that the AIDS cocktail is quite effective. Like the drug that they're using for people with AIDS is what they're suggesting should be administered.
Where does that come from?
What do you mean?
Who makes that decision? When
Uh,
you say they, who are they? Pharmaceuticals?
I don't.
Medical doctors?
I
Who?
don't know. I
And
don't
how
know.
how long? What is in the AIDS virus? medication?
Really nasty antiviral medication that is in a class action suit right now because it really does a lot of damage to a lot of people. And the pharmaceutical companies that manufactured it for the first 8 to 10 years that it was under their proprietary copyrights knew that it was unnecessarily damaging to the people who were taking it.
It's interesting because my son died of AIDS 33 years ago.
Mm.
He had a blood transfusion and the blood was tainted.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, in the early 80s, nobody knew what that was about.
Right.
But he was in Tehachapi and had a motorcycle accident and ripped his shoulder and tore a blood vessel, and he had to have blood transfusions. He had to have 3 of them.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually, he ended up with AIDS.
That's horrible.
And that was as a result of the tainted blood.
Yeah.
But they didn't know that back then.
No.
Nobody knew what it was. And he was in Sherman Oaks Hospital at the AIDS ward, on the AIDS ward there. And he was there when Rock Hudson died, and it was all over the news. And Chuck said to me, he says, "Mom," he says, "I'm not gay."
Right.
I said, "I know you're not."
Right.
I said, "With all these ladies calling me,
Well, back then
he
they
loves
did-
his motorcycles
yeah.
and he doesn't love me."
Yeah. Back then, they didn't know what they were dealing with.
No,
They
they
thought
had-
it was some kind of gay disease.
Yes, that's right. They did.
They had no idea what they were dealing with.
No, not at all. But it was the tainted blood.
Yeah.
That's what it was. It's unfortunate, but he lived more in his 26 years than most people live in a lifetime. So I feel good about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feel good about that. But I can't believe it's been that long ago.
Yeah. So now we're faced with the new epidemic of the common cold, but it's new and improved to try to scare the heck out of you so you don't mind,
I don't want to catch a cold.
right, spending billions of taxpayer
Oh, my
dollars
goodness.
on a vaccine that will do absolutely nothing,
Isn't that amazing? I just wish they'd let Carl and Jerry come home.
right?
Because if all he has is a cold, what's the point of keeping him isolated like that?
Right. Well, give him some
Jerry
ginger.
too. Yeah, ginger, not water. Warm water. We need to take a break, don't we? Okay. I'm Barbara Cochran on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS.
Hi, I'm Miles McNamara, Certified Senior Advisor and owner of Comfort Keepers in Home Care. Our caregivers help you in your own home. A Comfort Keeper can provide companionship, meal preparation, medication monitoring, assistance with personal care, transportation to doctor appointments, all enhancing your independence and safety in the comfort and privacy of your own home. So if you or someone you love could use a helping hand at home, call Comfort Keepers at 287-4200. That's 287-4200.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
We all know sometimes people lose their way. If you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, the Way Out Recovery SCV may have the answers you've been waiting for. The Way Out is the premier intensive outpatient treatment center serving Santa Clarita. Asking for help is the first step. Call The Way Out today, 661-296-4444. That's 296-4444 for a private free assessment. The Way Out is an accredited, affordable outpatient program that accepts most insurance. Call us at 661-296-4444 or check us out online at thewayoutrrecoveryscv.com. Quit battling with yourself. Ask The Way Out for help today.
Kyle, guess what's coming up?
It's the KHTS Home and Garden Show and Emergency Expo.
April 25th and 26th at Central Park. Free admission, mission.
Over one weekend, over 20,000 homeowners, Santa Clarita homeowners, visit this every single year.
It's one of the biggest home shows in not just Southern California, but California.
My favorite is the marketplace.
It's local craft stuff. It's awesome.
A lot of activities for the kids. They've got the petting zoo, pony rides, and brand new this year, the very first Strut Your Mutt dog show benefiting St. Bonnie's Animal Sanctuary. How cool is that? If you want to be a part of this, there is always room for your business.
That's true. And this is an opportunity that is like no other. You're going to get, like you just said, about 20,000 people over the weekend to come and check out your business. So there's still vendor opportunities available.
That's the only question I have. If a vendor is listening right now and they say to themselves, that's what I want to be a part of, now what?
You can call 298-1220, 298-1220, or go to scvhomeshow.com.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS. And we're speaking with Dr. Thomas Polucki, a local chiropractor. And we were talking about the coronavirus first, and now we're going to talk about neuropathy.
Yeah, something you know a little bit about.
I know a lot
Well,
about.
personal experience there with
Yes.
neuropathy. So just if you're just tuning in, peripheral neuropathy is commonly associated with diabetes. And it is a breakdown of the nerves because the body's inability to regulate blood sugar. The sugar itself becomes toxic and starts damaging the nerves and the blood vessels. And when you damage nerves and blood vessels outside of the central nerve system, it's called peripheral. So it's peripheral nerve disease. That's literally the translation of peripheral neuropathy. It's nerves outside of the central nerve system that are being damaged, and there's about 100 different causes, but the top few, obviously the number one cause is diabetes. But the next few are medically induced. And that is from chemotherapy.
Yes.
We know about that because you have personal experience with that.
Absolutely.
Chemotherapy
I
induced
didn't have neuropathy before I went through
peripheral
cancer
neuropathy.
and chemotherapy.
The next one is steroid use. People who have COPD who have to take steroids, inhalers, asthma inhalers, that causes the same kind of neuropathy as diabetes, the same kind of breakdown. And something that may be surprising to a lot of people because their doctors never tell them about this is statin drugs. Cholesterol medication is another leading cause of neuropathies. So these medications, the common side effects of these medications are some form of neuropathy. Now, there can be other types of neuropathy. There can be neuropathy from an injury. A spinal injury can cause a peripheral neuropathy. A local injury can cause a peripheral neuropathy as well. But typically when we use the term peripheral neuropathy, it's many different kinds of nerves are affected, and they're all in the extremities. And that is usually caused by some kind of a metabolic issue that is either diabetic related or chemotherapy or steroid use or cholesterol medication use. Those are the most common forms of it right now. Carl, our friend who owns the radio station, Carl got a form of peripheral neuropathy as a reaction to a vaccine, and that is another common cause of neuropathy. It is a kind of almost an autoimmune response to a vaccine called Guillain-Barré, and he was being treated for that. We were treating his Guillain-Barré, his peripheral neuropathy, before he went on this trip and got quarantined with the common cold or coronavirus.
Well, now, are there other forms of neuropathy?
Oh, yeah. There are hundreds of subtypes. of neuropathy. Neuropathy just means nerve damage, essentially.
damage.
So when it's in the central nerve system, it's a little more serious, and there are several causes for that. Obviously, a stroke or a demyelinating disease, something like ALS or MS. Those are very serious forms of central neuropathy,
Okay,
central
and
nerve system
what
neuropathy.
does that do? How
What
does
is-
that manifest itself?
Oh, they're horrible diseases. So,
So it's not
uh,
just numbing of the feet or hands or tingling
no.
or something like
So ALS is commonly called Lou Gehrig's disease. The
Yeah.
most common famous person is Stephen Hawking. So that is a very nasty form of a central nerve system neuropathy. Um,
that.
MS, Annette Funicello, a lot of people have been, famous people have had struggled with MS.
And that is a form of neuropathy.
It is a central nerve system demyelinating, neurological disease. So yes, pretty much any nerve disease is a form of neuropathy. But the way that it's thrown out in the common vocabulary,
It's given different names.
Yeah,
It's
so-
not called neuropathy.
and
ALS,
there
for
are
instance.
neuropathies from work injuries, from overuse injuries. Carpal tunnel is a form of neuropathy.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sure, it's neuropathy of a nerve in
Interesting.
your hand
And that comes from
overuse.
a lot of typing.
Yeah, well, among other things.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
That's
Any
right.
overuse of your
Yeah.
wrist can cause carpal tunnel.
Interesting.
But that's a form of neuropathy. Anything that injures or damages a nerve can be classified as a neuropathy. Now, the interesting thing is, what types of nerves are injured and what is the likelihood of recovering them? Because you had a great success with a nasty form of neuropathy caused by chemotherapy,
Right.
and we were able to reverse that nearly completely using technology that we do, that Cancer Treatment Centers of America uses for their chemotherapy-induced peripheral neuropathies. Among other things is the wavelength of red light that we use, the therapy that we have you using at home. And that is one of our recommendations. Most of the treatment that we do for peripheral neuropathy can be done in the comfort of your own home. You just buy the equipment and then you treat yourself 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at night. And we have about a 90% success rate with most forms of neuropathy.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. So the nice thing about this red light is that it produces two different really critical chemicals that you can't get in the form of a medication. They have to be made inside your body, and we support your body's production of those two chemicals. One of them is nitric oxide, which dilates blood vessels and increases circulation in an area. And one of the problems with neuropathy is some of those nerves that are affected control the blood vessels, and if those blood vessels are not allowing blood to circulate properly, you can get very serious complications, the ulcers and even gangrene, which is, a horrible
Oh, my
situation to be in. That's advanced stages. And the good news is that this red light has been able to reverse even advanced stages of that where there are the ulcers, because not just does it increase the blood flow in the area with the nitric oxide by dilating the blood vessels, but it also produces another chemical in your body called VEGF. And I'm going to use a big word here for a second.
VEGF?
Yeah. So it's vasoendothelial growth factor. But you don't have to remember that. VEGF is good enough for most. Most people who even work in the industry are going to call it
Interesting.
VEGF anyway.
But
So VEGF
what is that?
actually is like a growth hormone for new blood vessels So even if an area loses all of its blood supply, if you can stimulate VEGF in an area and the red light does that, new blood vessels will sprout, almost like growing a plant growing. New
Yes.
blood vessels will start recirculating the blood in the area. And you have to be careful about how fast you grow those new blood vessels, because if the tissue is very damaged, you can grow a blood vessel that breaks down and cause some bleeding problems. But done appropriately, like the protocol we use that has been adopted by Cancer Treatment Centers of America, we get some pretty amazing results, healing the ulcers that nothing else will help with. But the red light has been shown to heal them. Pretty amazing stuff.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty amazing.
And obviously, if it's not that far, it can help even more. So depending on the types of nerves and where the damage is, kind of dictates how much we can expect to recover. The
Okay.
more centralized the nerve damage is, the less likely it is to completely recover.
Well, now, like in my case, my feet.
Mm-hmm.
What, where are the nerves coming from that have caused that?
Okay.
Is that
Well,
central?
well, that's just it. There's, no matter where you go in your body, anywhere in your body, whether it's the
Yeah.
tip of your pinky toe or right up at the base of your skull, there are 3 connections to the brain. Doesn't matter how far away. There's only 3 nerves involved, no matter where you go in the body.
Okay.
So if it's that last nerve, and that last nerve is completely outside of the central nerve system. If it's that last nerve, that last of 3, that's damaged, and the nerve cell itself isn't completely destroyed, we can expect full recovery under the right circumstances. If that it's one of the 2 nerves that are inside the central nerve system, the likelihood of it recovering becomes less and less.
So what kinds of treatment are
Same
there
thing,
for
same thing,
Same thing.
same
just the red
thing.
light?
It is, okay, so in order to give your body everything it needs to recover from any type of nerve injury, number 1, you have to stop the inflammation, the damage. You have to clean up the damage, the debris from that, and you have to give the nutrients to repair. The red light gives the VEGF and the nitric oxide to help with the circulation, which helps clean up the debris. And then we have some other supplements that help detoxify your body. And then it's a matter, once you have stopped the inflammation, cleaned up the debris, and given the nutrition to repair, then it's a matter of rehabilitating the nerve, because if a nerve is damaged, it doesn't necessarily
Come back on its own.
well, yeah, it doesn't necessarily work exactly right without some re-education. Just like learning how to walk. We all eventually learn how to walk. However, it's not a natural thing. We're not born and start walking around. So that process, you have to train the nerve system how to make that happen. And when you have nerve damage of any type, you have to rehabilitate. And we have technologies to do that as well. So it's a comprehensive. It's not just, you have some pain or some tingling or you have some burning or you have some twitching muscles. Here, just take this drug. Every one of those drugs that is given, they might mask the symptoms temporarily, but they do nothing to stop the inflammation, clean up the debris, and give the nutrition necessary for the nerves and the blood vessels to repair or rehabilitate them once they are intact again. And that's where we come in. That's our approach. That's what allows us to reverse peripheral neuropathy 9 times out of 10 for most people.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. And that is as a result of manipulation.
Well, that's only
It's-
one small part
yeah.
of it. One small part of it, of what we do for our patients.
Right.
It includes that, because you have to take all the pressure off the nerves in order for them to ideally work.
Right. Well, now you do have another form of assistance, and that is that gun you use.
Mm-hmm.
And what does that do? Because it's a constant hit on the area that seems to be causing the problems.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that do?
Okay.
Aside from the manipulation,
Yeah.
which you don't do
Right.
normally, you don't twist the body.
Right. We don't twist or crack anybody.
No.
And there's reasons for that.
But you
So-
do because I've been on my stomach and you've pushed
Mm-hmm.
and maneuvered on my
Right.
back, but you've never twisted.
No. Okay, so to answer that question most directly, and why most people are scared of chiropractors is because they see those viral videos of people getting cranked around and it looks like they're, going to get paralyzed or something by this. We don't do that, not because of that, but most simply put, there's about 6 different joints on every single segment of the spine. They're all facing on different directions. And when you put a twisting motion in there, whether it's violent or gentle or not, if you put a twisting motion in there, if you were able to reapproximate, like get the joint surfaces better situated on one of those 6, there's just as likelihood that you're going to
Dislodge.
dislodge
Yes.
one of the other 5.
That makes a lot of sense.
I don't like those odds at all. So
No.
instead of just putting general manipulation, a twisting motion into a very 3-dimensional complex situation, we go after the one, and it takes a little bit of extra training in order to find this, the one joint that is misappropriated, the one joint that is slightly dislodged. Instead of let's just crank on all 6 of them and hope something good happens,
Yes.
we go after the one that is misaligned and use a very specific one-directional force in order to try to open that one up. And it just seems to work so much nicer without any of the complications and without any of the scare factor. I mean,
That's
I
right.
would never let anybody grab my neck and twist it until something popped or cracked. That just doesn't sound like
No,
any
and
good.
that when you do that, you may fix one, but you damage others.
there is certainly the
That's-
potential for
yeah,
that, even if it doesn't.
That's logical.
Yeah,
when you
of
stop
course.
and think about it.
Of course, even if it doesn't cause stroke, because it doesn't. There's the evidence is in that there's no greater risk with that than anything else. But that's not why we don't do it. We don't do it because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense to use such an unspecific approach when there is a specific approach to get the job done without causing any kind of collateral damage, without causing any further sprain or strain on any of the tissues. We don't need to create new problems for our patients. They have enough problems when they get to us.
Now, in my particular case, my damage seems to be on the right side.
Mm.
At least that's where you treat,
Mm-hmm.
on my right side from my neck down into the middle of my back.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel a relief after that's done,
Mm-hmm.
after that's happened. Now, see, it's bothering me now.
Well, you're scheduled. You're coming in after the show, so
So it's on time. in
it's
other
on
words.
time.
Well, I heard it this morning because I got down on my hands and knees in one of my bathrooms and was cleaning the floor.
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh, Barbara, now you got to get up. And that happens to be a challenge.
Yeah.
You know, as you get older,
Sure.
it's hard. It's easy to get down.
That's
But
not
I
easy
had to
get
hold
up.
onto the sink
Yeah.
and the windowsill and, you know, to get myself up. And
Yeah.
it was not pleasant.
Right.
And I felt, uh-oh. And you're going to find when I see you after the show, there's something wrong in there. I know there is because I can feel it.
Yeah.
So it's
But we can
amazing.
go after that very specifically, very gently, and very effectively
Yes.
to give you lasting relief instead of, just constantly needing physical therapy, constantly needing medication, constantly needing just to be able to function. This is,
right.
I believe, a much more precise, effective, and cost-efficient way of dealing with these problems.
It is. It is. And do we need to take a break? Yes, we do. Okay. Dr. Polucki will be back in a few minutes. I'm Barbara Cochran on your hometown station, 98.1 FM and AM 1220 KHTS.
Hi, Kirk Stinson here with Plumbing by Kirk, your hometown plumber. With another tip, close your sink drain and remove your expensive jewelry when entering the shower to avoid costly plumbing expenses. But if it does happen, shut off the water immediately and call Plumbing by Kirk.
We invite you to visit our website for free plumbing advice at plumbingbykirk.com or give us a call, 263-6519. That's 263-6519.
My dad is the best plumber ever. Call Plumbing by Kirk.
At Advanced Audiology, we know how important hearing is to you, your loved ones, your work success, your safety, and your ability to stay in the game. Most people won't admit hearing loss to themselves or others. We make it easy for you. Today's digital hearing aids come in a variety of styles, including invisible. All feature-rich, providing unparalleled hearing quality, wearing comfort, and automation that simplifies your life. Don't be fooled by our imitators. There's only one Advanced Audiology with the purple sign, next to AAA on Valencia Boulevard.
Chiquita Canyon Landfill takes the waste from our homes and local businesses and puts it to good use. With cutting-edge clean energy technology, Chiquita Canyon powers 10,000 homes each year by harnessing the methane gas from the landfill. So, the next time you wheel your trash can to the curb, feel good that your waste is on its way to making green energy at Chiquita Canyon.
Chiquita Canyon Landfill, our partner in sustainable living.
Hi, this is Dr. Phil. A new coronavirus called COVID-19 is spreading in China and beyond. While CDC is working to stop the spread of the virus, we can all play a role in stopping this deadly disease. The CDC Foundation is a nonprofit organization supporting emergency response efforts in the United States and around the world. To get updates and learn how to protect friends and loved ones, find out how to help by going to cdcfoundation.org.
It's like no other station I've ever listened to. It's great.
Your hometown station.
Will you still need me? Will you still feed me when I'm 64?
Welcome back to the Senior Hour. I'm Barbara Cochran on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220 KHTS. And we're having a great conversation with Dr. Thomas Polucki, a local chiropractor who does more than chiropractic. Right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, we do.
And a great deal of that is involving nutrition.
Yeah, well, I'm medical director for functional diagnostic nutrition. I manage over 300 functional medicine practitioners in the United States, overseeing their lab use and their protocols on how to get people to restore their natural healing processes instead of just covering up symptoms. And we've talked a little bit about that today. Obviously, our thoughts and prayers go out to Carl and Jerry, who are under quarantine for what amounts to a mild cold. Carl had a mild fever a couple of times. Jerry's coughing a little bit. This is the extent of the problem, and yet they have been locked down on quarantine for going on 3 weeks and with no end in sight because the CDC keeps changing the rules on this thing. Very little fatalities with this coronavirus. It's all being blown out of proportion, and my only assumption on that is because they're opening up, scaring the public like crazy. It was last night. It was on the news on every single channel simultaneously for over an hour. You could not change a channel and not see something about the coronavirus, and we know people who were infected with this, and it's not even a mild cold as far as the symptoms, as far as how this is affecting people, and yet it is being made out to be this absolute end of the world scenario thing that we have to free up the funding to green light a vaccine. They have not been able to create a cure for the common cold.
No.
So to think that all of this is going to make any kind of difference at all is ridiculous, and yet every form of media is jumping on this because everybody's going to get a piece of the profit from all the taxpayer dollars that will be wasted on whatever they come up with.
And what are they going to come up with that they say will cure?
Probably a vaccine that is as effective as, trying to vaccinate against the cold. When you put it into that perspective, when you know that the coronavirus is a cold and there's nothing you do about the cold, you can take some medications. What the Japanese government is doing with their quarantine is ginger. That's it.
And
They're not even
water.
giving them aspirin or Tylenol or Theraflu or anything like that. They're just giving them some ginger, and that's the extent of it. When you realize that you're dealing with a cold and not the end of the world, it kind of puts things into perspective, and you have to wonder, why is all this fuss being made in the first place?
Well, doesn't that include a slight temperature too?
Yeah. So
the flu?
Yeah.
The typical flu.
Yeah. Well, the flu actually has killed hundreds of times as many people this year alone as the coronavirus will. Even if this becomes everybody on the planet becomes infected with coronavirus, it's not going to even come close to the fatalities of the flu because the flu has digestive complications where you'll dehydrate, and that's the biggest threat to most people.
That's right.
But this doesn't even do that. You have a little bit of a cough. You have a little bit of a cold for a little bit. You have a little bit of a fever. And they're blowing this way out of proportion. And the only reason I can think that is happening is because they're trying to justify how much money they're going to spend on this thing and who's going to get paid off by it. But that's just my opinion. However, let's talk about something that you can do something about, something that you have some personal experience with. We have a couple of minutes left to talk about neuropathy and some effective treatment that is not just masking the symptoms with addictive and toxic medication.
I don't take that stuff anymore.
That's good for you. But you had 7 years of chemotherapy-induced neuropathy. You got the neuropathy from chemotherapy, which is one of the growing causes of peripheral neuropathy. That, along with your cholesterol medication that so many people are taking, that's another growing cause of neuropathy, and steroid use for COPD, that's another growing cause. The biggest cause is still diabetes, which can be avoided. Type 2 diabetes can be avoided completely with dietary changes.
Well, what does that mean? Where does the neuropathy come from if you have diabetes? Is that too much sugar in your
sugar toxicity. Blood sugar is essentially highly toxic.
There you go.
So, yeah. And the steroids do the same thing. They demodulate how you handle blood sugar, among other things. So, but it doesn't matter how, and it doesn't really matter what kinds of nerves, as long as they're outside of the central nerve system, there's a good chance that most of the damage can be repaired if you get to it soon enough. We have the technology. You've experienced it firsthand.
Yes. And speaking of experiencing it, how do our audience get in touch with you? If they have a similar problem, they need to come and see you.
Absolutely. 661 753 9340.
661-753-9340.
Absolutely.
Terrific. Thank you, Dr. Polucki. What a great show. Just me and you together, baby.
There you go.
I'm Barbara Cochran on your hometown station, 98.1 FM, AM 1220, KHTS.